Hello everybody and welcome to another video, and I'm sure a few of you may have been expecting this, but yes, today we are going to be taking a look at the new Warlord Games, the Punic Wars epic scale range of miniatures. Now, Warlord Games did get in touch with me and ask if I was interested. Now, as I had started a previous Punic Wars project that some of you may remember if you've been watching the channel for a while, I was very interested, especially because that project I lost my steam on that project. I was doing it in 28mm. Those models got sold on, but I never lost my interest in the period. And the fact that Warlord Games decided to choose the Punic Wars as the setting for their Hail Caesar version of their epic line makes me very, very happy. So I'm very interested. This is the first of the Warlord Games epic lines that I have undertaken anything in. I haven't done anything with the Napoleonics, the ACW, or Pike and Shot. However, I do a lot of Hail Caesar. So if you're new to the channel, please do check out the other playlists. I play an awful lot of Hail Caesar, including other things as well, like Pike and Shot and Black Powder and other games. But Hail Caesar is very much my sort of system of choice, and you'll find a lot of content on the channel about that. So with that being said, what we're going to have a look at today is the Roman sprue. We're going to go through it in detail, looking at each of the troop types that you get on here, and we may even take a look at some elephants as well. I originally intended to do one video looking at all three of these sprues, but that would be incredibly long, and I don't think that enough people would really want to hear that. Anyway, as you can see here, we have the Roman sprue, which comes in this sort of nice browny gold colour. So if you don't want to paint them, you can easily just stick them to the bases and play a game with them as they are. Now, on the Roman sprue, you're going to have your three main types of infantry for this period. That is the Hastati, the Principes, and the Triarii. You also then have some Velites Skirmishers, you have some heavy cavalry, some light cavalry, and you have commanders as well. Now, obviously, this is at the time of the plebeian legions in the sort of mid-republic, and at this time, the normal size of a legion was about 4,200 infantry. 3,000 of these would be the sort of heavy infantry, 1,200 would be the Velites, the skirmishers, and then maybe 200 to 300 cavalry. And then the subdivisions in this period are the maniples, which I'm sure most people know. There were 10 maniples in each of the three lines that the legion would be drawn up in, and that would be 10 maniples of Hastati, 10 maniples of Principes, and 10 maniples of Triarii, for a total of 30 maniples, which would sort of form into three lines in a sort of checkerboard formation. The maniples in the front two lines, so the Hastati and the Principes, would contain twice as many troops as those in the rear line, and a maniple at this period is about 120 guys. So as you can see, one of the main things that people are interested in is how they have done the Romans, and that's in this, I've been referring to them as the Oreo, and that's that you get these 30 models that essentially squeeze together, with the middle rank simply being the moulded shoulders and heads, so you get this really close rank feel. Now obviously the Romans would probably not be so tightly packed together, but considering what you're trying to represent on the tabletop, I think this is really nice and is very, very interesting. Now, what is very interesting is how this is going to work on the tabletop. Now, here we have the ones that I have painted up, and I've got painted examples for most of the stuff you're going to see today, and these are the Hastatis. So these are the first line of the melee infantry used in the Manipular legions. These guys were typically in their sort of early to mid-20s, and they were basically not the poorest, but they were pretty poor, which is why they don't have great equipment, because everyone was buying their own armor and their own equipment. So they would be using the gladius, and they would be the guys who are sort of thrown in first. Now, as you can see here on the middle rank, there's a sort of a shelf, which is what you use to stick it to the front and rear rank. Now, I painted this dark brown, and that represents shadows in the unit. As I work off a very light undercoat, that would poke through otherwise. If you're working off black undercoats, then you probably don't need to do that. Now, the information that we have from Warlord Games is that the Roman units as standard will be in 2 bases, and then probably up to 4 bases for a large unit. But something that's quite neat is if you actually wanted to do 120 men to a maniple at 1-to-1, then you could do it with 4 bases. The sculpts on these are all really crisp. I didn't have any problems sort of painting them, and it was very, very easy to use sort of contrast paints or speed paints, whatever your poison is, to pick out the details. And painting these really didn't take very much time at all, so I think be able to whip through the Romans quite quick. Next up, we have the Principes. Now, these are my sort of personal favourites on the sprue. These guys would make up the second line of infantry in the Hannibal legions, and I think it was Virgil, actually it was probably Polybius, said that these were men in the full vigour of life, so they're probably in their sort of mid to late 20s. These guys would also have Hastati and stabbing spears, and they would have the pila like the Hastati, and they just form a sort of more experienced line behind Hastati. Now, unlike the Hastati, these guys are wearing chainmail, which actually made them incredibly easy to paint. The Oreo here goes together exactly the same as the Hastati did, and I should probably say, as I didn't say this with the Hastati, I paint all three of these separately. I think it would be quite awkward to paint them together, and I think you're just going to create time for yourself. Now, I wanted these to look a little bit different for the Hastati, so I chose to give these guys nice yellow shields. I've done some hand-painted designs with some little lightning bolts on there just to make them look a little bit different. But as these guys are only wearing chainmail on the back, it really didn't take any time at all. These were even quicker to paint than the Hastati. To make them stand out a little bit, I've just given them black feathers on for their helmets. What I tend to do with my painting is I take history as a base and I amend it so that things look cool on the tabletop. Evidence on this era is fairly sparse and can be quite contradictory. This is some that I've got underway at the minute, and you can see how easy they are just to set up on some lollipop sticks and just do batch painting. So these 3 stands that I'm going to paint are going to be added to this one to create 2 more units for the battlefield, and I will then be doing the same for the next load, which will be the Triarii. As I say, these are my personal favourite sculpts on the sprue. I don't really know what it is. When I think of the sort of Republican Roman Manipular legions, I think of these guys, and I really like them. I'm really looking forward to just getting them on the table. Next up on the sprue, we have the veterans. We have the Triarii. Now, these guys would form the third and basically the most experienced line of the Manipular Legion. They were also the wealthiest members of the infantry and were basically the oldest, and probably somewhere between 30 and 40. Now, while the Legion would have, sort of about 1,200 Hastati and Principe, the Triarii would always be half this, so they'd only be 600, so their units would be half the size. Now, I'm interested to see how Warlord Games are handling this in the rules, whether they're just going to simply be a 1 base unit, or whether they're just going to up it to 2 and just keep things simple. Now, the Triarii had a distinctive broad-headed spear, which you can see here, and of course they've got the very distinctive crest as well. Once you stuck one of this sort of, or I keep calling it the Oreo formation together, it really doesn't take any time to do the rest. Now, what's quite nice on these models, they have a moulded pattern on the shield in the corners, and if you're very careful with just a little bit of paint on your brush, you can just pick that out quite nicely. Similar to the Principe, I just wanted to pick a distinctive shield colour, so I went with white so they can be easily identified on the tabletop. And there you are. There you have all 3 of the main infantry types together. Give you an idea of how they look and sort of how they're going to operate on the battlefield. Now, I managed to get through these very, very quickly, and the thing that took a little bit more time is what you can see here, and that is the commander followed by the cavalry. Now, this commander here is probably a military tribune. They were the infantry commanders in the Hannibal legions, and there were normally 6 to a legion who would be appointed by the consuls who are in overall command. However, there could be more elected by the people, or basically just given field commissions. It's the best way to describe it, basically depending upon the situation. And I really like this sculpt. I have heard previously that there's been some issues with cavalry sculpts, particularly with the pike and shot set. However, I really can't see any of that here, and painting this guy up was just an absolute joy. I really love doing it. So here he is. Here is my first commander for Hail Caesar, who is my, well, the Punic Wars Hail Caesar. Anyway, here he is this little tribune who will be leading this Roman division into combat against Hannibal. I've gone with a basic sort of basing scheme here. If you've seen my Crusade videos, it's essentially the same, just with more grass to get that kind of Mediterranean feel, which is what I want across the army, and it's very, very quick and easy to do. But yeah, overall this is a really, really nice sculpt, and I'm really pleased with how he came out. Next up on the sprue, we are going to be looking at the skirmishers. These are called the Velites, or the, well, essentially they're the skirmishers. Now, these are made up of the youngest and poorest people who are capable of service to the Roman Republic. And they're going to be in their sort of late teens to sort of mid-20s. At this point, members of the Legion were required to purchase their own arms and armour, and they weren't able to afford expensive equipment, so they just essentially ended up with a cheaper gear that was more suited to skirmishing and ranged combat. Their primary weapon was the Valus, which was a sort of javelin or throwing spear. Actually, come to think of it, I think the javelin was called a Veratunum or a Verite, hence Velites. Anyway, there we go. I'm trying to remember all of this from when I did the previous stuff on the Punic War. So it may be worth checking those videos out where I was talking a little bit more about the history. Now, this sculpt I've had sort of a little bit more trouble with. I don't know if that's because they're single miniatures. Some of them, there's some nice details. I quite like the poses that they're in, and they fit the role of skirmishers very well. Once you've got them painted up, they basically look really, really cool on the base. I had the most trouble with the wolf skins. There were a couple of details where I couldn't tell where the wolf skin started and where it ended, so I just kind of made a decision and decided this is arm or this is wolfskin. Once they're on the base and you had the sort of wash over them, for the scale it is, I had no problem at all. That's one of the things at this scale. I find that I'm painting the approximation of a face or the approximation of a belt rather than the actual thing itself, and then adding highlights where they're going to be sort of seen the most rather than necessarily where they would be naturally. Now, on each of the sprues, you get 2 of the heavy cavalry, and you also get 2 of the light cavalry. Now, the Roman cavalry, which was also referred to as the equites, were the cavalry contingent for the whole army and was made up of the wealthier citizens, essentially because they could afford it. These cavalrymen also had the added benefit of only being able to sort of serve for 10 years in the military rather than the typical 20, which is required of the infantry. Now, I really wanted to show the cavalry here because, again, I heard that there were some people who had some issues with the other cavalry. I don't really have any issues with what I can see here. The details seem crisp and the poses are good, and there are some really nice little details on here which you can pick out, which you will see in a second. Now, these guys have been fitted out with a coat of Lorica mail, which is similar to what you can see here, and I think they're meant to go 5 to a base, but honestly, as it's Hail Caesar, everything's based on frontages, so if you wanted to just put 4 on a base and a little bit of scenery on there, or you wanted to chuck a commander on there to make it look different, it wouldn't make a difference. I've gone with hand painted shields for these based on simple sort of a googling and just looking for Republican Roman designs, and I'm really, really pleased with them. What I'll probably do is reduce it to 4 per base just so you can space them out and see those shield designs a little bit better. Now, I still have to finish the light cavalry, so I will be showing those off in my next project video. But here you can see everything, well, nearly everything that I've worked on, and sort of give you a rough idea of how it's going to look on the table. But I couldn't resist doing at least 2 of the elephants. So let's have a look at the sprue. So this is one of the things which I think people are most excited about with the release of the Punic Wars. Of course, the elephants, Hannibal's famous elephants. Well, there is a lot of detail on the sprue, on the howdah. You get your own base on here, so you don't have to use that normal frame. It comes with 2 different, let's call them drivers or pilots for the elephant, and 5 separate crew members. 2 with the contos, the long spear, 2 archers, and 1 javelin man. Now, because they're all separate, that's great. That means that you can sort of adjust the crew, or you might only want 1 or 2 up there, and then you could potentially use those on other bases as well. So here they are painted, and I had a great deal of fun with these. These are cracking models. I really, really like these. Now, There are elephants available, obviously, at 15mm or 10mm from other suppliers, but as a lovely addition to this this set, I mean, why would you want to do this and not have the elephants? They are lovely sculpts. I decided to go, at least with these ones, for a simple paint scheme, just some nice bold colours, just so they stand out on the tabletop, and just really, yeah, I'm really pleased. They were a lot of fun. There's lots of nice little details on there, like the chains, and some other little bits around on the elephants, so plenty to get your teeth into. And here they will be crashing into the Roman lines. So there we have it. This is just a sort of look at the Roman sprue and the elephant sprue, and just to show you how I've painted them. There is going to be a lot more to come. At the time of making this video, I've already finished a Roman division. I've finished half a Carthaginian division, and there is more on the way. Now, I'm not going to be doing any painting videos, at least not yet, and only if people ask for them. The goal of my channel and me taking this on is going to be getting battle reports going as quickly as possible. So I'm going to be working on cranking these out as fast as I can, and the next update will be once I've completed a Carthaginian division, and we'll do the same thing and go through the sprue, look at the troops, and then show you what they look like painted. If you're interested in painted videos, then I suggest you go over and look at Miniature Realms. Go see Stu, I know he's going to be putting them up, and there's going to be a lot of stuff to come. Anyway guys, thank you very much for watching this. I appreciate you taking the time. Let me know what you think down below. Is there anything that particular that you're looking forward to, or that you're missing at this point? Is there anything that you wish that they'd put in the release? Is there anything that you're looking for in the battle reports? Initially, probably just going to be doing some straightforward battles to show people how it works and how things may need to be adjusted at this scale from standard Hail Caesar. But if you are interested in Hail Caesar and this is your first time dipping your toe, then do check out the other channels on the playlist as well. If you check out the links down below, you'll be able to go straight to the Warlord store, where you'll be able to pre-order all of this stuff. So thank you very much to Warlord Games for giving me the chance to have a look at this and share it with you. I look forward to chatting with you all about this one, and yeah, remember to like the video and let me know what you think, and I will see you all again soon in the next one. Take care of yourselves. Bye bye.